Namami Bhagavad-padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashyakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murtibheda Vibhagine Vyomavad-vyapta-dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sadashiva-samarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru-paramparam Om Sahana-vavatu Sahano bhunaktu Saha-virvyam karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahaihi Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we were looking at the qualifications required for a seeker of self-knowledge. The four different kinds of qualifications: Viveka, Vairagya, and then the group of 6, and group of 6 also the disciplines required to be cultivated. And mumukshutva. So that intense desire for this knowledge. And these qualifications are not available in full measure in anyone. So we need not beat ourselves because we don't have one or the other of these. So no one is perfect. No student is perfect. And the idea behind knowing these qualifications in a structured way is for us to have it as a benchmark or something to be achieved, or something to be worked. Something I have to work for. So that is the idea behind knowing the qualifications required. And for a wise person, these qualifications become very natural. So what we call as qualifications for a seeker, so they become natural traits for characteristics for a wise person. So the person displays these traits in his everyday life, his or her everyday life. And once these qualifications are there, to some extent, then one begins the study of the Upanishads. Gets into a structured pursuit, structured study, committed study for a length of time of the Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, which reveal this knowledge in a systematic, structured way. The Upanishads employ different methodologies for revealing the nature of the self, for revealing my true nature, for revealing the true nature of myself and the whole universe as one and the same. As that consciousness being all pervasive. So there are different, we call it prakriyas, different methodologies that are employed to do this. So one methodology that we saw right when we started these sessions was we understood that we look at ourselves as individuals at different levels. We look at ourselves at the level of the physical body. So that level is called Annamaya Kosha. So this is called the Panchakosha Prakriya. The methodology of looking at the identification of the individual with different levels and how I'm not limited to what I identify with. See, I identify myself with the physical body in terms of how I appear. But I'm not just the physical body. Because I also identify with the pranas, with the physiological functions. Prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. So I identify with that part also. And then I identify with the thoughts I have, the emotions I have, the feelings I have. So I identify with the mind also, whatever is happening at the level of thoughts. And I identify with the knowledge I have, with the intellectual capacity I have. So all these levels, we understand that that is an identification, and that is a level at which I commit the mistake and limit myself to that level, or a combination of one of these at any given point in time, or a combination of one or more. When I describe myself, then I describe myself as one or more of all these put together. I describe myself in terms of my appearance. I describe myself in terms of the level of the prana, my digestion, or how my digestion is taking place. So because I associate me with that layer. And then I say I am happy, I am sad, I am scared, I am shy, and I am compassionate, I am empathetic, I love. That I gets associated with all of this. The individuality naturally, seamlessly gets associated with all of this. So I commit a mistake there, limiting myself to that level at one given point in time. And then I identify with the knowledge I have, the intellect I have. And then I identify with the happiness, with my causal body also, which is Anandamaya. So the driving force behind all other koshas. So what the Upanishad tries to do is that there is some person who is behind all these layers. So the physical body can be objectified. I can objectify my physical body. So I say, I can see something outside of me. I can see the mic. I can see you. I can see the wall. I can see the door. Or I can see the plants outside. When I say that, then I'm clear that because I can see it, I am not you. Because I can see it, I am not the mic. And I am not the plant. I am not the door. But I can see my body. But I say my body is me. How is that logic justified? I can objectify my body. I can objectify my thoughts. I can objectify the knowledge I have. I can objectify the joy I experience. But I identify with all of that. When it is something outside of me, then I have no problem in saying that it is not me. But even though I can objectify all of this, still I own up whatever all these different levels at which I identify. So that is where the problem is. So the Upanishads employ this methodology and try to make me understand that whatever you can objectify, there is an observer who is objectifying it. And that observer is the truth. That person who is objectifying it is the truth, is the Atma. This is where we all commit the same mistake. So this mistake is universal. There is no exception. So anything outside of me, I don't have any problem in saying that it is not me. But I can see my own body, my own mind, my own intellect, my own physiological functions working, and the joy that I experience. But I own up. I identify with all of that. So this is caused by ignorance. And once a person is able to recognize this and acknowledge this, the Upanishads make a person recognize the mistake, acknowledge the mistake, and then see the real self, see the truth of oneself as being separate from all that I identify with. And then clearly establish the truth of myself as limitless, changeless, all-pervasive, unborn, undying. So that is the real me, and then make one own up the real self. So one has to just make that shift. So Vedanta helps me make the shift from what is not me to what is the real me. Vedanta helps me understand that whatever I am objectifying is not me. And then it shifts your understanding to the real self. So that is the job of Vedanta, that is the job of Upanishads. So this is one methodology that is employed. There are other methodologies. So another methodology is connected to this Panchakosha, which is Shariratraya. So Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira. Sthula is the physical body, the Annamaya Kosha is the Sthula, physical. The Sukshma is subtle, which includes the three in between, Pranamaya, Manomaya and Vijnanamaya. So the level of the prana, the level of the mind and the level of the intellect, all three together are called Sukshma, subtle. It is Sukshma because you cannot see it, visualize it with your eyes, but still you can objectify it. Mentally you can objectify it. That's why it is Sukshma, it is subtle. Sukshma means subtle. So that is the Sukshma Sharira, and the Karana Sharira is the Anandamaya. So that is where, that is the source of my ignorance. So Anandamaya is modification of Ananda or joy. And because I am always looking for joy, anything that I do is driven by the desire to have some joy. That is why it is also called the Karana Sharira. So that is, and the Upanishads help me understand that I am the observer behind the Sukshma Sharira. I am the observer behind the Sthula Sharira, and I am the observer behind the Karna Sharira. So in all of this, the idea is the same, to separate the observer from what is observed. Anything that is observable is not me just because it is observed. Simple logic. Anything that I can see, I can objectify, it cannot be me. Because there is someone else who is seeing it. We all understand that. But when it comes to ourselves, so that mistake is committed willingly. So we want to hold on to that mistake. That is why we are always craving for experiences. Because experiences are at the realm of the body. It can be physical or it can be mental. And there is always an experiencer behind every experience. Experiences can come and go. But the experiences is always constant. I am the experiencer. So any experience that I may have, it can be any extraordinary experience, any exceptional experience. That experience cannot be the truth because it comes and goes. The simple logic is no experience, however good it may be, however extraordinary it may be, exceptional it may be, but still experience is limited in time, it cannot be me. And there is an experiencer. So this is another idea that the Upanishads use, methodology the Upanishads use, to bring out the truth of the truth of the real self. So bring out the truth or give the understanding of the real self. And then we have another methodology of arriving at that consciousness being the truth of everything, which is called the Karya Karana Prakriya, cause-effect relationship. So the idea here is that the effect is non-separate from the cause. And the effect cannot exist independent of the cause. It can be applied to everything. Suppose I have a mic here. So I call it a mic. So the object that I call a mic, it has different components. It has a front portion, it has a back portion, and the cable is also part of the mic. And if I remove the front portion, the middle and the cable, then the word mic that loses its meaning, because they are two separate entities. The word mic is something that we use for referring to a certain useful object. By itself, it doesn't have any substance, because it is a lot of components that are put together. And then even those components, the front, middle and the back portion of the mic, if you look at them separately, then they will reduce into their cause. Which is the material they are made of. And the material is manufactured in a certain way to perform a certain function. It has a purely transactional value, purely utility value, pure utility value, nothing more than that. And then that material, if we look at it, and in all of this, the word mic does not exist separate from the components. And then the material that the various components are made of, that does not exist separate from the material itself. That component, front or middle or back portion, that does not exist separate from the material. So without the material, it has no existence. And then that material also, it doesn't exist independent of what it is made of, the molecules. So you break it up physically or chemically in some way, then all its strength is derived from what it is made of. Like that, we can keep breaking every object in the universe. And then finally, we can break it down to atoms and then subatomic particles. And then the subatomic particles, we can keep reducing. Then we find that all that we have in the universe are just names and forms without any substantial value. They are all dependent upon their cause, and then that cause is dependent upon its cause. So this we understand purely by inquiry and by analysis. And finally, it reduces to just consciousness. Consciousness being the source of all that exists in the universe. So this method of analysis, with this methodology, is called Karya Karana Prakriya, cause-effect methodology. the effect is non-separate from the cause. That way I look at myself, then the individual I call myself is also made up of various components. So it includes the eyes, includes the mouth, nose, and then skin, and it includes the mind, intellect, the pranas. So separate all of them. For some reason they are functioning together, thankfully. Otherwise we would disappear. And we are not making them functioning together. Someone else has been graceful enough to allow us to use this body. Someone else has put it together. Not even my parents. They have absolutely no clue. So parents have absolutely no clue about how the child is produced. So, but there is someone somewhere, not someone, some intelligent being, so who has blessed us with this. So that person has put it all together. And so we are enjoying it. But you remove the eyes. Can I just place the eye on my head or even the eyes? The eye on the eyes. Or on my hand or on my legs. Because it is all of us, all of it put together, and then it has a certain utility value for a certain time. So we separate it, then the I does not have any meaning. See, all this is purely cognitive analysis only. So then I look at one part of the body. Even the hand is made up of various components. The word hand, it is not an independent entity. It is just a word that we use to refer to a certain part of the body, which has innumerable components, which are all functioning together. So take away the hand, take away the components, and the word completely loses its meaning, becomes meaningless. So all of them put together is what we call hand or legs. And behind all of this is that life force that we call consciousness. As long as that consciousness is blessing me, I am alive. So every day in the morning I am grateful for that consciousness to continue blessing me for one more day. And one fine day it decides to quit. So when it quits, then the body is useless. So the consciousness is the most important entity behind me. So the truth of the individual is that consciousness. And that consciousness is the truth of everything that is there in the universe also. This is another methodology that is employed by the Upanishads. It's called Karya Karana Prakriya. And then there is one more methodology which is called the Avasthatraya Prakriya. These three states of experience. So as an individual, we are in one of these three states at any given point of time during our lifetime. We are either in the waking state, or we are dreaming, That's not daydreaming, that's dreaming during sleep. And then we are in deep sleep, it is dreamless sleep. So as during our lifetime we are in one of these three states. But do we become different persons in these different states? The waker is one person. And then when you go to sleep, the waker disappears, I disappears, and then I start dreaming. And then deep sleep, the person in deep sleep is a different person. No. We all understand it is the same person. So, the question is the waker real? Or is the dream real? Or the person in deep sleep real? Because they are completely three different states of experience. Person in the dream can completely dismiss the waker because you are having a different experience. So the waking state is completely non-existent for the person in a dream. And when I am awake, the dream is completely unavailable to me, deep sleep is completely unavailable. But still I look at myself as the same person going through all these three states of experience. So that person who is constant and goes through all these three states repeatedly, that person is the real self. And that person is not what I am identifying with. And the Upanishad also goes, further to say that whatever I am experiencing in the waking is not much different from what the reality of what I experience in the waking state is not much better than what I experience in a dream. It is only that real, probably slightly better, but not significantly better. So that is, and the Upanishad has a structured way of making us see that fact. And I give so much importance to my waking state, but really it is not that, worth that much. Whatever I do in the waking, all the experiences I have, sometimes I identify with experiences. And then I just revel in that memory. I've had this experience. And I want to repeat that experience. So the Upanishad says it is just like wanting to repeat a dream. Why would anyone want to repeat a dream when you know that it is unreal anyway? It is pointless. It's a waste of time. To want to repeat a dream. Dream happens, but to want to repeat a dream is a complete waste of time. That is why running after experiences, the Upanishad says, is a complete waste of time. Don't run after experiences. That's a mindless way of living, mechanical way of living. Because the experiencer identify or shift your attention to the experiencer. and not get stuck with the false identification. The one who is experiencing, experiencer means the one who is experiencing, and that experiencer remains a constant. So that is another methodology that is used in the Upanishads. So we have we've seen different methodologies. One is Panchakosha, 5 layers, and then Shariratraya, and Panchakosha, they are one and the same, similar. 3 bodies: physical body, subtle body, and then the causal body. And the Karya Karana Prakriya. Karya means effect, Karana is the cause. Cause-effect methodology. In fact, that is the easiest. You can do it any time. Anything that you are attracted to, anything that you are longing for. You just need to develop the ability to see that it is a very, very temporary thing. And then that longing will automatically decrease, weaken. And all that, all the aspirations that I have and all that I desire, they are all just my own imaginations. A world that I have created on my own, a subjective world that I have created. The value I have for various experiences, people, objects, everything is subjective. The objects are not subjective, but the value I have for the objects are subjective. The objects are objective. But how much value I have, that's a very, very subjective thing. And all my suffering is because of the subjective value that I have. And that makes me, if I lose it, that makes me unhappy. But still, essentially, the object is nothing but consciousness. I am the same consciousness which is the truth of the object also. So this analysis, this line of inquiry, using these various methodologies, all for the sake of arriving at the same truth. Because human mind, it likes to look at it from different angles. And the Upanishad only tries to use that tendency. And whatever you do, whichever way you look at yourself, the Upanishad tries to push us into a corner so that you will not see anything that other than the truth of yourself. It's like you're not given any other, there is no scope for seeing anything else. That is the whole intention of the Upanishads. So whichever way you look at it, I am not as important as I think I am. Let me not overestimate myself. But normally my assumption or everything that I do is based on the assumption that I am the most important entity in the world, in the universe. Everything is an outcome of this assumption. But the Upanishads say that it's not really worth it. So there is something, you are much bigger than. So the problem is, the Upanishads do not dismiss me, but the Upanishads only try to teach me that I am much bigger than what I have really concluded myself to be. And you will be a better off, you will be much better off if you own up with that bigger self, with that limitless self, rather than owning up this limited and very, very temporary self. The Upanishads don't dismiss the individual. So there are three different realities that the Upanishads talk about. So the absolute reality, the relative and the subjective. The absolute reality is the true self. There is a relative reality also, which I have not created. Even this body, I have not created, but it is there. But still it is relative, it is time bound, it is short-lived. And then there is a subjective reality, which is the world that is inside my own mind. Like I said, the subjective value that I give, importance that I give to so many things in the creation. The desires that I have, the feelings, the emotions, it is all in the subjective. The Upanishad says, reduce the subjective first. The subjective is the least important. Or the subjective has least value. Because it is my own imagination. And then convert it to make it more and more objective. Reduce the subjective and learn to see yourself and the world outside the way it is, not the way my mind wants to see it. So just see it as it is. Then we are more grounded. We can be more objective. Subjectively we see it, then we can be hurt. We can be sad, we can be unhappy. But objectively we see it, then there is more acceptance. That is the way it is, then my subjective value doesn't really matter. And I am happy with what is there. And then convert the objective to the absolute. So that is the transition process. Reduce the subjective, increase the objective, and then gradually take the objective to the absolute. See that the absolute is the source or the content of the objective also, objective world also. I look at myself also objectively, not subjectively. The body objectively. Because it's not my own creation. Then my life becomes a lot simpler. Otherwise, I'm always caught up in my own imagination, my own thought world, my own whims and fancies. Like Krishna says, the first thing that a wise man does is give up his own imagination. So whims and fancies. So not have much of subjective. So reduce the subjective world to the minimum. But still, it will not be like a very uninteresting, boring life. Then it will become more interesting. Making it objective becomes more interesting than just keeping it at the subjective level. Because there is much more to appreciate. Much more to be grateful of. So you are expanding yourself. Because sometimes Vedanta could also appear as making life very boring and very uninteresting. No. Life becomes much more interesting. We don't even generally expose ourselves to that way of looking at the world and ourselves. So these are the three levels, and the Upanishads employ various methodologies. And that is our primary source of knowledge. And there is also another text called the Bhagavad Gita. So the Upanishads, they are very direct. They go right to the core. But Bhagavad Gita also, it spends a lot of time on talking to us about how we can prepare ourselves for this knowledge or for this pursuit. That's why Bhagavad Gita is also called a Yoga Shastra. Yoga Shastra means it talks about the overall lifestyle, mindset, and behavior, attitudes that I should have. The right kind of mindset, behavior, attitudes for pursuing this absolute reality, for owning up my real self, and then slowly reducing my subjective self. So Bhagavad Gita, it primarily talks about what we call Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is a certain mindset or an attitude that we have towards our whole life in general, towards our activities, all the actions that we perform, and the attitude towards the results of the actions. Karma phala. In fact, that is extraordinary advice. Normally we get disappointed, we get frustrated, we have regrets, sadness with regard to the past, because of the attitude we have towards the results of our actions. So Karma Yoga it tells us how we should look at activity, what is our limitation, and what is the real purpose of activity, which is preparing myself and purifying my mind to have more clarity. That is the main purpose of all activity. And how to do it like that, do activity like that. So that is the whole theme of the Karma Yoga. So we will stop here. We will come back and we will look at Karma Yoga. So the overall principles of Karma Yoga, the basic principles. So it can be reduced to 3 primary principles. And everything else gets connected to that. So these principles, Lord Krishna, so he brings out right at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, the 2nd chapter. So starts with this verse, a very popular verse, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Ma karma phala heturbhuhu ma te sangaha astu akarmani. And then a couple of verses connected to that. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyos samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. And then one more, which is buddhi yukto jahatiha ubhe sukrita dushkrite tasmat yogaya yujyasva yogaha karmasu kaushalam. So the main principles are, one is samatvam yoga uchyate and yogaha karmasu kaushalam. And both are connected to karmanyevadhikarasti, which is you have the capacity only to perform the activity, but you cannot become the author of the result of the activity. And how to accept the result of the activity, whatever it is. What is the mindset with which I should receive the result? And then how you choose activity. So what is the discretion you use for choosing what kind of activity that I should be involved in and what I should avoid. Then one more is there, which is in the 6th chapter. So Lord Krishna also says, Tam vidya dukkha sanyoga viyogam yoga sankitam. So yoga is described there in terms of dissociation from association with pain. That is the definition of yoga given in the 6th chapter. Dukkha sanyoga viyogam, beautiful formation of word. Dissociation from the association with pain. That is also defined as karma. We will stop here. We will take a short break and then come back and we will look at it. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.